I'm Father Jim Forson, and I'd like to offer you some reflections on the Gospel of the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time. You know, today's Gospel is a Gospel that just bugs us. It sticks in my craw. It's the Gospel I think we're all familiar with, the story of the landowner who needs workers to work in his field. And so early in the morning, he goes to the town square, finds a bunch of workers, agrees on the wage, and sends them off to the field. And then later on in the afternoon, he finds more workers and sends them off. And then even later on in the late afternoon, he finds more and sends them off. And then when the time comes to be paid, the guys who got there first early in the morning are seeing that they're getting the same amount of money as the guys who only worked a couple of hours. And they're angry. And they're saying, hey, whoa, we worked all day long. Those guys only worked 2 hours. They don't deserve as much money as we are getting. And the landowner's response is, wait a minute. Are you angry with me because I'm generous with them? It's my money, isn't it? I can do what I want, can't I? And the answer is, yeah, but they don't deserve it. You know, there's a story in my life that I've told my parishioners that I just love. And it's a story about my great uncle Jack, whom I never knew. He was dead before I was ever born, but my mom would tell me stories about him. That my great uncle Jack was, well, to put it nicely, extremely irresponsible. He was just no sense of accountability to anybody. He would come, he would have fun with the kids, he'd play with them, and then he'd disappear. And his sisters, my great aunts, would know nothing of his whereabouts, didn't know what had happened to him. But the kids all loved him because when he reappeared, he had presents for all of them, and they just loved Uncle Jack coming back, and gifts and toys, and they played with him. And my great aunts were just furious. Don't you know what you put us through and how nervous we are? And then off he'd go. He'd disappear again, gone for 6 months, and come back. And he was married. He had a wife. What? You got married? And then he'd go off again. 6, 8, 9 months later, come back. Another wife. What? You have another wife? And they were so angry with the way he lived his life, which came to an end. True story, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, at the train station on a rainy night, he was getting into his cab, and he saw the Archbishop looking for a cab. And he called the Archbishop over and share my cab with me, and they both got into the cab. And as they're on their way, my great uncle Jack had a massive heart attack and collapsed in the bishop's arms. And the bishop anointed him right there, and he died. And my great aunts were furious because that he deserved to burn in hell for all the things that he did and all the things that he put this family through and all the things they put us through. And for him to die and be anointed by a bishop, no less, that's not fair. That's not right. He doesn't deserve that. And I'd like to think that one day my great aunts, when they died, they went to heaven and God met them and said to them, you ladies, you've been so good. You sacrificed yourselves so much for your families on earth. Please come into heaven and be with me. And look, there's your brother Jack. I would have no doubt they would say, what's he doing here? He doesn't deserve heaven. And really, in a way of thinking about it, who does? Who of us deserves heaven? I don't think any of us can say that. We hope to get there, but deserve it? I don't think any of us can ever say, hey, God, you know what? You owe me. Almost sounds blasphemous, doesn't it? You owe me, God. But I think there's a part of deep down inside all of our hearts where we say exactly that to God. God, you owe me. Some parents who have lost a child have told me that that's the worst death of all to suffer. Losing a child is worse than losing a parent, a spouse, a sibling. It's the worst. When they lose the child, the the feeling is so strong to say to God, why? Why, God? Which isn't really a question. It's more of an objection. It's another way of saying, how dare you, God? How could you do that? How could you do this? I don't deserve this. You owe me. Or, the people who have terrible illness. I have a good friend of mine. She is a real health nut. And she would exercise like you can't believe it. She didn't have an ounce of fat on her body. Her diet was incredible. She ate wheat germ. Who eats wheat germ? She did. But she got stricken with this terrible cancer. She was so angry with God, saying to him, I don't deserve this. I do all the right things. And now this? And I think we all can identify with that. Because I think all of us have this idea that, if I live a decent life, if I'm good, take care of my family, I don't kill anybody, and I try to do the right thing, well then, I deserve, I've earned a place at the table, you owe me that, God. But really, have I merited a place at the table? I'd like to think that my hard work, putting my shoulder to the plow and living a good, decent life earns me a place at the table. But really? Did I earn it? Did I deserve it? When I look at my life, I realize that I have the life I have because people I know and people I don't even know of at all have sacrificed themselves so that I can be where I'm at in life. I think of my great-grandparents, some who came from Ireland fleeing the potato famine, others from Sweden running away from crazy wars, and they settled into the Midwest and became farmers and railroad men and worked tough, hard lives and raised their families, who worked tough, hard lives to give rise to my parents, who sacrificed so much so that I could be where I am. And did I merit any of that? It was all a gift. All of these generations of people sacrificing themselves so that I can be in life where I am. And I deserved none of it. It was all a gift. Like living in this country, in America, where I have, because I live here, an advantage that billions of people throughout the world would love to have. And I have it because so many millions of people have sacrificed and lived their lives so that I could be in this country as it is. And did I deserve this? Did I earn this? It was a gift. It was given to me. I didn't deserve any of it. I was watching this movie a couple years ago called The Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood. And in it, he gets into a gunfight with a local corrupt sheriff and he shoots him. And as the sheriff is dying, he says to Eastwood, I didn't deserve this. To which Eastwood responds, deserving's got nothing to do with it. And that was such a brutal line. It has stayed with me always. And I can't help but see some measure of wisdom in there. Deserving has nothing to do with it. And he's right. I deserve nothing. Everything I have is a gift. And my response is not, now God, you owe me. This is my little nest egg, okay? And you leave it alone. Don't you touch it. No. Rather, God, thank you. Thank you for this nest egg that I have. Thank you for this life that I have. Thank you for all those who have sacrificed. Thank you for this country. I'm blessed, God. Thank you. And if tomorrow I wake up and I still have that little nest egg, God, I'm so grateful. I thank you. So today, as I go out into this world and maybe I see other great Uncle Jacks, rather than thinking How come they got it so good? I deserve better than I deserve what they have. I deserve more than what they have. They're not the good people. How come? That's not fair. It's not right. Rather than that, maybe instead what I'll say to those others is, peace be with you, brother, sister. I'm glad God has been so generous with you because he has been that generous with me. That's the way I walk through life. And I hope that one day when I die, that this good and gracious and generous God will welcome me into heaven, something I do not deserve, but it's a gift he would give me. I would love that so that I could see him face to face and I could thank him for those gifts he gave me. I would love that. I'd love to be able to see my great grandparents, my grandparents, my parents. I'd love that. I'd love to see my great aunts, thank them. And I especially love to see my great Uncle Jack.